Whenever a Japanese soldier or a Japanese worker would go to work or leave his family, what he would do is he would take a flag, and his wife and his family and his loved ones around him would sign the flag sometimes and wish them well in their new venture out in the world. Like I said, many Japanese, I believe, came home just fine, but many did not. There were those who were captured or surrendered to the wrong side or the wrong people, and or were taken hostage. And to those, they were locked up in prison and tortured and held inside of captivity and not fed and actually thrown in rat infested pits sometimes. And basically, the Americans would, or the United States, or the Yankees really, they weren't really Americans. They can't use that name, nor were they particularly a part of the United States more than they were just some people that Nixon or JFK or John McCain picked up off the street. They would just walk into the street. They would park their sub at the dock, tie it up, and then they would walk into town and they would collect 5 or 6 people that would want to go with them, and then they would go out into foreign lands and they would basically capture these other Japanese subs or other people, and then they would pretty much what they would do is they would take them off the ship, and then they would take the women underneath and they would have sex with them for a while. The first thing what they would do is they would say, "Come on, we'll get on the submarine. We'll take you to shore," and then their crew would stay on a couple of guys would stay on the ship to pilot the ship in the harbor, and then they would take the submarine out, and then they would submerge underneath them and leave the Japanese basically swimming in the water. And the Japanese would be like, "Take this with you," to one of the soldiers, and sometimes the soldiers would just take it just because, and that would be a flag basically. They'd say, "Give this back to my family," and then the Yankees would submerge the submarines underneath them and leave them out in the middle of the ocean to die. And that's why a lot of Japanese ships stayed by the coast. Anyway, and then the women they would take underneath and they would have their way with them. Oh yeah. And then they would take the Japanese women on top of the submarines and they would submerge them and leave the women out in the water to die. So women would die about 3 or 4 days after the men. Those alligator people. Anyway, there were many atrocities that the Yankees did, and the black people were far worse. Although who was worse, I don't really know. There was the Yankees and John McCain and Richard Nixon and all of them, and then there was the black, what is Mr. Brown, Mr. Black, Harlem and Wolf, which were far worse. Like I said, some Yankees would just be like, "Why don't we just shoot them now? At least they won't die in the water." Slowly dying to death is worse than just dying. I don't know. You'd have to see it. I saw a lot of video. I saw a lot of evidence, and it's pretty bad. Anyway, it's the kind of thing that just makes you just want to punch someone and strangle them with your bare hands. Anyway, like I say, extremely angry is how I felt. Like I said, when if you saw what I saw, if you knew what I knew, you would, there'd be this deep, angry thing that just kind of comes from inside of you and just becomes a scream of rage and hatred, or just feeling that what you have witnessed and the people that are around you are just such low level. You just want to. They had no honor. They had no self-respect. And I don't even know why they did it. For what? A few coins? A couple cars? Anyway, some canned food? That's what they were stealing. That's what they got off the freighters. Canned food, some coax cable, a couple cars. Nothing of any real value. Anyway, it's pathetic. Anyway, like I say, the Japanese have nothing to feel sorry for. And great atrocities were done to them. and the Chinese. They were being targeted mostly because they worked very hard for what they had. They earned everything. Anyway, a bunch of blacks and a bunch of Yankees just figured that they would just sit back and relax while the rest of the universe, while the Germans, while the British did all the work, while the Irish did all the work. Anyway, I guess you would say, well, we can't all be great, right? Well, I was great. I was epic. Anyway, some people were epic in the other direction. Anyway, oh well. I don't know what to say. I mean, I did everything I could, and we fought them. Like I said, the reason why the Japanese and the Irish fought the Yankees and the blacks to the death was because surrendering to these people won't do no good. They'll just kill us slower. We can die on our feet, or we can die slowly, starving to death. That is the only choice we have. And that's basically the truth. And that's why those flags really have so much meaning. So, because they were the family would sign them and stuff like that. And then they would go off to do their great work, which is basically build a ship or build a waterway or build a mine. They're miners too. They're workers. Anyway, they're good people. I adored the Japanese quite a bit. They meant a lot to me.